Hello, this is a video on my views on the subject of archetypes and deities. We used to have people talk quite a lot about are the gods actual independent beings, or are they archetypes, as in the psychological sense, the kind of Jungian sense, or in other senses of archetype. But in any case, there was used to be this discussion about this, and polytheists would always say, hard polytheists would always point out that the gods are independent entities; they're not psychological archetypes. I entirely agree with this, though I do think that archetypes also exist, but they are of a somewhat different quality and nature, though people do and can confuse the two, which can be a problem for people. It can be quite hazardous in some ways, because the experiences are quite different. As you would probably tell from the term archetype, I think archetypes are largely a kind of psychological plugging into a transpersonal force. But it is the plugging into a force. There isn't actually a being there. There isn't a someone, in a sense. With gods and demons, however, there is someone there. There is an intelligent entity which you can actually form a relationship with. In the case of archetypes, I don't think you actually form a relationship in that way. You have an experience, and you experience a force and its effects upon consciousness, which can have all sorts of uses and functions, and it's a natural part of life that these psychic structures, these psychic functions, actually are experienced by people and are sought by people and arise at various times. But I don't believe these are the same. These aren't the same as the gods, because the gods are actual beings, and these are beings which one forms a relationship with. And so there is a kind of intelligence there which I believe is lacking with archetypes very markedly. Both archetypes and gods can possess a person, but it's a different process, I believe. I mean, the sort of people become possessed by archetypes in all sorts of situations, where they become obsessed with something, or their consciousness is flooded with certain kinds of ideas, desires, drives. Many desires and drives, I think, and these can overwhelm a person, and that's a form of possession by archetype. Possession by a god is a different process, and I think you see it in various traditions and various religions. You have possession by the god or goddess. So possession, I think, occurs in both, but it's a very different kind of possession. Now, you do find people, because of the influence of occultism, you find people talking about invoking the gods. I actually don't believe that you invoke a god. I think you invoke an archetype and plug into an archetype. I don't believe you invoke a god. Gods don't get invoked. They can be invited, and they will come into your life in various ways. And they can be channeled, they can possess a person, they can give rise to oracular work, or complete like consciousness displacing possession. But when most people talk about invoking a god, like through a ritual, you invoke the god into you, I believe they're talking about invoking an archetype, not a god. Another, in some ways related subject, because it deals with things which are psychological, is the whole area of thought forms and egregores. And egregores are basically thought forms around a sort of like a collective, such as a religion, a society, People talk about a coven having an egregore as well. So, I mean, this is another thing. I think, for instance, with my own experiences with Satanism, I rather feel that the egregore, if you like, of Satanism is corrupted, and that's my feeling about it. It's very limited anyway and distorted, and that's a big part of why I left theistic Satanism, though I am still very much a polytheist and I still feel a relationship with the demons and the demonic, and I still have a strong relationship with the horn god. So you see, with the influence of modern occultism, things have become very kind of mentalistic. They've become very psychological, and very technical. But I don't believe this is the way to approach the gods. The way to approach the gods is, for me, the way of the heart and the way of the very practical, the very down to earth. I think those two things are what I feel is the way to approach the gods, in ways which are earthy, but also very much based in the heart, rather than in ideas which are psychological, ritual, or focusing effectively on thought forms and archetypes. Because as polytheists, I think, as a polytheist, what you want to do is to come into relationship with the actual gods, and especially the gods that are, for whatever reason, your fate to be linked with, and there are, I'm sure, many reasons for that, but it's relationship with the gods which is, I think, important for a polytheist, and so it remains that which I like to focus on. Anyway, thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it.